Welcome back to today's video. Today I'm going to be going over one of my Immortal games that I played. For those of you who don't know what an Immortal game is, it's basically the perfect game that I ever played. This is one of the most perfect chess games I ever played. If you plug it into an engine, I think for black, which is what I was playing, you get about 98 point something percent accuracy. And white also played a very strong game, about 95% accuracy. A bit of context about this game: I did this back roughly about 5 years ago during COVID. This was against one of my old chess coaches, and this was me basically just playing everything that I learned. This is probably one of my best games I ever played, one of my favorite games I ever played, and this is actually just me using an opening that I'm comfortable with, the Sicilian defense, and me sort of channeling that inner, uh, my inner tall, my inner Fischer, just sacking pieces and just launching a full scale attack. So I'm gonna go through this game and I'm gonna explain my thought process behind each of these moves to show how to win this game and achieve the high accuracy that I did, like Tall, like Fischer, like Magnus, all the greats. So the game starts with e4, c5, Sicilian defense. I mentioned this in my last video. I don't like going e4, e5. Fischer said best by test, just symmetry. I like to play for wins. I'm not as good as Fischer and never will be, but I like those aggressive openings, those openings where I can really get an advantage and try to. I'd rather lose than take the draw. That's just how I always play. That's how I played everything throughout my life, sports, everything. Never go for the draw, always fight till the end. And I'd rather lose every single game than draw every single game. So e4, c5, knight c3. So my coach here, he played a closed Sicilian, which, like, in most chess openings, closed, you just lock the center. Basically, no trace happen. Open, you open the center up. You kind of have more attacking opportunities. Closed, very positional, very maneuvering game. So this is trying to get me out of my comfort zone. So I go traditional line, which is knight c6, knight f3, e5, bishop c4, d6, d3, bishop e7, castles, knight f6. This is all relatively standard stuff. I can't think of a lot of chess openings where with the Sicilian where this isn't. This is basically the common setup you want with the black pieces in a closed Sicilian. So now my opponent, he goes knight d5. I short castle. I'm not worried about this trade on f6 because if he takes it, I'll just take with the bishop. Remember, bishops are worth more than knights in most cases. Fischer said it best. Bishops are roughly 3.5 points of material. Knights are 3 points of material. In a closed position, though, which is what it is, knights might be worth slightly more than bishops, especially because I have 30 pawns on dark squares. This kills the activity of my dark squared bishop for most of the game if I can't get it out. Same thing, the knight can just kill off my dark squared bishop. That's not the best move. This is something you need to think about when you play chess. Is your piece activity, is it worth it when you're going for the trade? So what this means is, like, I see many people say they have knight on g1 and you have your dark squared bishop here, nothing blocking it. They will just take that inactive knight for no reason because they think, oh, it's an even trade. That's not an even trade. First of all, bishop for knight, that should ring a bell in your head. That's not an even trade. Secondly, this isn't an active piece. You trading your active piece for an inactive piece, that's not doing anything. So that's just something you need to think about. Look at piece activity. Think of what your opponent's doing. Obviously, in longer forms, longer games, it's much easier to sit there and think about what's happening. In shorter time controls like 3+2 or even bullet, you kind of just have to go off instinct and vibe. But This is just something to keep in the back of your mind. Look at piece activity when you trade. So game continues, bishop d2, knight takes. I actually initiate this trade with the knights because I'm trying to double his pawns. Obviously, you can take with the bishop, but you'll see why I do this in a second. He takes with the bishop. Once again, he doesn't want to double his pawns. If he doubles his pawns, I have a much nicer center structure. He has doubled D pawns. Doubled pawns in general, just ugly to work with. Never willingly double your pawns unless you have a strong idea that you want to do or if you're comfortable playing with them. So I go bishop c6, just bishop e6, excuse me, bishop c to e6, just to, I want that trade. I don't care if he takes, it's a good enough thing. He takes, I take, I open up the rook. This is common in Knight or Sicilians, where you have a missing f pawn, usually traded on the e6 square, just to open up your rook and just initiate a kingside attack on the enemy king, because typically Knight or Sicilians white short castles, and you just initiate a long-term castle, a long-term attack. So pretty standard stuff. You see bars point one, white has slight advantage. That's just typical computer stuff. This game right now is a draw. c3. This tells me he's going to try to go d4. Obviously c3, d4. At the center, try to take your pawns. Queen d7. Once again, I'm just building up my pieces for this attack that I want. I have my rooks seeing each other. I have bishops. I really love this bishop setup with Sicilians specifically because it's just, to me, it looks so nice. And I'm a big fan of keeping my bishop pairs together, kind of like this, if that makes sense. I remember a game from AlphaZero I studied a while ago. It gave up its pawns on its king and just protected its king with bishops like this and a king behind there, something like that. And to me, that's just always something that made the most sense to me because you have double bishop pair with a king with a lot of mobility. Remember, I like king mobility. I said that in my last video. Anybody who's played me in real life knows I love my king mobility. If you restrict my king, I'm not going to be happy about it. Just giving away a little secret in my repertoire, but I can play around it, so not too big of a secret. H3, basically saying I can never go bishop g4 to pin the knight to the queen. So kind of annoying, but this is just standard move in most modern day chess. These hyper modern openings. Continuing, bishop f6. Once again, just trying to re-support this dark squared pawn, and when he eventually plays here, if I take, this is just math. You just look at the trades, just want to support my piece, my pawn, want to try to reroute my attack, get my attack already strengthened, because I don't have an open f-file, so my attack is kind of just, right now, bishops, queens. My rooks are just going to be playing support on the pawns. My knight's not even close to being towards this attack. Now, he plays a4, I play bishop takes. Bishop takes because now he has to double his e-pawns. This forces him to do something where it's going to be uncomfortable. It's kind of like you got like an itch in the center of your back that you can't scratch. This is the move that's going to mess him up. And I remember thinking in this game, I'm like, okay, he's going to have double D pawns, open e file. All I have to do is just support this pawn. This pawn's already protected 3 ways. I can easily protect it a 4th if I wanted to, and just storm this pawn down and promote, trade, and just try to outmaneuver him in the endgame. He's going to have double D pawns. I'm going to have strong D and C pawns connected to my B and A pawns. King's fully protected. All I have to do is play H6. King mobility, remember, I can manipulate my king how I want to. He can never try back or checkmate if I have this pushed H pawn or even G pawn or F pawn. So that's what I'm thinking. He plays E takes, obviously. Now, best move here. Obviously, knight can move any multitude of ways. just do the math, calculate what you think is best. This, okay, but he's gonna play this, and then we're back to the same thing. I go knight a5, he's just gonna play pawn to b4, and then it's yeah, I'm screwed. There's nothing I can do. So best move, either retreat fully, but if you retreat fully, you deactivate this piece. You don't want to deactivate your pieces ever, because you deactivate this piece, that piece will never be active again. You'll have to play like b6, then put your knight here, and you waste tempo. You have a good, obviously not active pawn, but this pawn doesn't really matter yet. So just reroute your knight to an active position where you can simultaneously attack this pawn. So knight e7, pawn c4, strengthening the center, basically saying I can't take this pawn for free. Otherwise, he's going to take it back with the pawn, still doubling his e-pawns, but he's going to have a knight 1. So I play a5. Typically, this is what you see. You go a4, a5, just to block the advancement of these flank pawns. You don't want these a and h pawns to get to the end of the board. They're just annoying to work with. Same thing with h pawns. Typically, because most people short castle, you're never going to see h4, h5. It can come up. You just have to calculate the line very deeply. Now, what's going to happen is queen b3, attacking my b pawn. What do? I disregard that. I'm going to reroute my knight. This is a crucial idea that you'll see. This is actually a move that won me the game because, look, I have a slight advantage now. 0.2, not much in the grand scheme of things. Most of the time it's going to be even. But if you take away the eval bar and you ask any person to look at this position, they'll say it's a draw. I've asked people who like this. I hear mixed things. Some people say they feel more comfortable with white just because it's a lot less ugly of a position. You kind of have more active pieces in a sense. But the people that have said they prefer black are typically higher rated players. I'm talking like IMs, GMs, lower rated GMs, no like super GMs like Magnus, Hikaru, etc. But with the black pieces, you can see you have the what you. This is like my dream setup in a Sicilian. I have my attack ready. I can have 3 strong pieces of material provided. I have my pawns, all my pawns. This is what you're. If this is what I do. If you're gonna close the position, I'm gonna unite all my pawns, and you'll see I literally do that. I unify my pawns, for lack of a better word, and I'm just gonna storm. So I reroute this knight, get this knight active because I want to launch that kingside attack. Most ideas with the Sicilian defense, you want to launch those kingside attacks. Obviously, there's lines where white long castles, like the Yugoslav attack with the Sicilian dragon. Um, I'm gonna make a separate video about that, but that's just a completely different idea. It's a different approach. If you short castle, this is typically what you want in the Sicilian. So after knight g4, rook fe1, just trying to get control of the file. This weakened pawn kind of still protected 3 ways, but this is a long-term move. You see, this is the weakest point of penetration. No, pause. But this is the weakest point of penetration. So you're going to want that long-term compensation. Now, bishop d8. Just rerouting this bishop. I know I said I want to launch this attack soon, but look at this. I lied a little. Look at this. This is a really strong position by white. If white knows what he's doing, they will destroy me. So I have to be careful. So bishop back, waiting move, supporting this flank pawn another way. So I can eventually, I'm protecting this pawn with my queen. But ideally, I would want to play something like this. Maybe trying to x-ray the queen with my rook through my pawn. Just trying to get more support on these pawns. I also need to protect this pawn from this bishop. This is kind of how you play closed positions. It feels very drawish because you have to have everything protected. So what I do, continuing, he plays queen b5. I don't like this move. Computer doesn't like this move. And you'll see why, because this exact sequence happens. When he plays this move, I'm thinking to myself, this is a terrible move because he's basically trapping his own queen if I can execute the move order correctly. So remember, I spent a good amount of time. This was in classical setting. Granted, this was just over the board with my coach as a friendly game, kind of, but friendly game meaning like friendly educational game where I try to whip out my best preparation, my best ideas. I don't play professional chess. I'm way too old for that, but this is just something I thought would be fun. So I'm going to use my best prep because I have nothing better to do. Just because he goes queen b5, offering the queen trade. I sat here thinking for about, I don't know if I said that, I sat for a good amount of time, maybe like 20-ish minutes. But I don't want this trade. If I trade, he trades, doubles his pawns again, or he isolates, opens up the C file, which I don't think that's too good of a move. But he's going to have pawn islands, pawn chain, so I decline it. Slides his rook over. Now here's what I do. Remember, typical Sicilian idea. You want that open F file. So I'm going to push my F pawns. Like I said before, I like king mobility. This has lost me a number of games, also won me much more games. I'm not afraid of pushing pawns in front of the king at the lower level, which most of you are. Don't do this unless you actually know what you're doing, or if it's just plain obvious. I would say the general rule of thumb is you can get away with the pushed F pawn. I would say like 85% of the time if you don't know what you're doing, but you just have good understanding of where your king should be placed. So I would say you can push your F pawn with no major punishment most of the time. Just think it through. I'd say G and H pawns, be much more careful about how you push them. That you need a full idea. Honestly, I would say unless you have classical experience, just never push it, never touch those pawns. You can push your H pawn one square, two squares, maybe if you want that mobility. Just never push your G pawn. You need to have a plan. I have a plan. I know what I'm doing here, so I push my F pawn. I've seen this position, seen it. I've seen this position with the F file. If you just basically like this, we just isolate this square, this very, it's rectangle, not really rectangle, but this is a pretty common structure I've played against. I've seen it like at least 5 times in my Sicilian games. But I know, push the F pawn. I need this attack. Without it, I have nothing. Have I'm slowly edging out this advantage. So I'm kind of rambling now, so I'm just gonna go. So that's bishop back. Pawn h6. Remember I said this, it's fine to push your h pawn. I do this for a different reason. I'm not afraid of backering checkmate. I'm doing it because I need my king mobility. I'm trying to bring my king into the fight. Yes, there's still most of the pieces on the board still, but I'm not afraid of that. That's just something you have to play in chess. You can't be afraid. Obviously, you should be calculating and think about what you're doing, but you shouldn't be afraid. The moment you're afraid, your opponent's going to steamroll you. So I push my H pawn. I have, this is like my dream king mobility. Obviously, I like long castling more because more king mobility, especially if I push a pawn. But this is good. I have access to my H file, my F file. I never have to worry about backering checkmate, especially in close positions. If you get backering checkmated in a close position, I would say just skill issue. Uh, Continuing. So that's king to h2. I actually really hate this move. I think king h2 is a horrendous move. Computer even doesn't like it. It goes up another 10 or down another 10, so it's minus 0.73. Push my b pawn. This is crucial. Remember I said I'm going to push all my pawns. I've pushed every single pawn besides my g pawn. The only pawn that has been pushed is the one directly in my king. This is just something always remember. Never push a pawn directly in front of your king unless you know what you're doing. Rules in chess can be broken once you get to a certain level. I can guarantee most of you are not at that level yet where you can fully understand the idea behind pushing a G pawn. To be honest, I'm not even at that level yet. I have good understanding of when I should do it, but I lack the finesse, and I guarantee that most of you will make that same mistake trying to replicate those Tolley and Fischer ideas. I've done it sometimes, but I've lost that gamble in a sense more times than I've won it. But when it happens, it's very satisfying to accomplish. So continuing, king back, rook here, pawn, stack my rooks on the f file. Remember, the whole point of my Sicilian defense in my repertoire, if you want a full repertoire breakdown, let me know. I can go through all my Sicilians because they're pretty good Sicilians. I only play the Sicilian with black against e4. Sometimes you'll see me play e5 if I want to shake it up, but if you want a full repertoire, I'll go through it. I'll make separate videos on each of my openings, not fully in depth because that'll be too complicated, but just general opening principles. But I stack my rooks on the f file. I'm barreling this attack down. He's got maybe like 10 more moves in him before this attack becomes dangerous, so he has to start reworking. Puts his rook here. I really hate this move. I do not like it. Computer also hates this move. To be honest, I have no idea what he's doing. I'm assuming he's trying to stack his rooks on the e file. That's the only thing that makes sense. He's trying to maybe bring his bishop back. Honestly, I wouldn't do that. This rook is just sitting here stupid. It's behind doubled pawns, double D pawns. It's got a knight that can block it, a bishop that can block it. It's not doing anything. This is an inactive rook. Sure, it looks active because it moved. It's not doing anything. It's just might as well just be inactive. So knight to f4. This is about to be my inner Italian. I go knight to f4 because I calculate something, which is after he goes rook to e3, what is the best move here for black? The best move is knight takes h3. Knight takes h3 is the best move because if he tries to take it, computer says, all I have to do is play f4, kick out this rook. If rook takes e5, which is the best computer move, then all you do is queen takes h3, and this is just very uncomfortable for white. My queen is in the way. I have a pushed pawn here. I'm going to bring my rooks up here. I have a bishop ready to come in. I'm going to take this knight. This is a fork. This is just ugly. This is really ugly for white. So after rook e2, knight takes, I still push the f pawn. I'm grinding out this position. Queen c6, queen g4, bring in all my attacking pieces. G pawn still never pushed, but I got the bishop long term. I have rooks, pawns. This queen is trapped, by the way. There's nowhere this queen can go without it dying. Sure, it can just chill on the b5 square, but that's just useless. You have 9 points of material, just useless. So he takes. I slide my rook up to f6. And the only move he can do in this position is trade. Take my rook, and I'll take his queen with my bishop, reactivating this bishop because, like I said, this bishop was long-term. This is a long-term bishop. It's kind of like that idea of the French bishop to me. That's what I think of it anytime I see this game. The French bishop, the idea is that you have a bishop that will never leave the back rank, kind of, because you lock the position a lot of the time in the French defense. That's kind of a very nice idea how white usually tries to win against the French defense. You kind of just kill off black's activity and just hope for like a cagey sort of endgame. So after that, what I'm gonna do is okay, sorry about that. My chess.com went brain dead. So look, brilliant, brilliant. I did not mean to hit the analysis. It activated because I misclicked it. So we're just gonna roll with it. So it takes. Actually, I'm just gonna turn off. I don't know. We'll just go with this for now. Sorry for the mess up. Got any ideas? Let me know in the comments. Takes. Remember, activate this dark sword bishop. This dark sword bishop was dead. Now it's active. Not dead. It had a long-term idea. I mentioned the French. Continuing, he slides the rook over. I actually really like this move. I know the computer says it's an inaccuracy or mistake. I think it's pretty nice. Idea simple, just stacking his rooks. Trying to break through eventually. I push my pawn. I'm slowly tearing apart this position. I like these ideas. where you just push your pawns, try to strip away every single defense the White King has. He sends his knight back, attacking my queen. Just slide my queen back. Attack's still there. And honestly, this attack is much stronger. I support this pawn. This pawn can't be taken for free. He honestly just helped my queen position. He takes my dark squared bishop. I don't care to take it. I'm still focused on prying this position apart. Doesn't matter if he takes. I got a pawn there. Yes, he wins the trade in the long term, in not in the long term, in the short term. But this is, look at this. I'm 2 squares away, 1 square away from his White King. This is super uncomfortable. He takes, I take, knight takes, queen takes bishop, barrel. This is like Al Johan's gun, just minus the extra rook. Knight takes check, rook takes, queen takes. And here, if I was white, I would resign. This is just really uncomfortable. Black's up 6 points material. Queen's just restricting this king. You know this rook has no chances. This knight, you might have some forking chances, but as long as I keep the king away and the rook relatively distant from the queen, and keep them on opposite colored squares, I'll never get forked. Nice little pawn triangle restricting this. This can't push, so idea. He sends his rook here. Computer says it's mate in 10. If your opponent finds his mate in 10, I would just resign, report them. This is not findable to me. I sign my queen here. He plays his rook here. Now, here is where I start understanding the mating net. Just something you see. This main 10 a while ago. With perfect play, that's main 10. That's what I mean, report him. If you somehow manage to execute that sequence, that's impressive. So here, I'm just kind of, I have back rank. I have ladder mating, checkmate ideas. Obviously, without this, maybe knight has to block and queen takes and just nice little checkmate. So he checks me. I go here. My king can never be checked again. He would have to go here, just lose his rook. He could get some like ideas if he wanted to, just trying to get a check on my king, but that's just brain dead. Knight here, threatening my queen. Check, and he resigns because this is unstoppable mate. This is mate in 3 with perfect play. This is what it would look like. There's many different mates. That's my Immortal game. Immortal being my best game. Easily the greatest game I've played. I have some more of these games if you want to see more perfect chess. I like this idea, this game, because it's basically just tall, stacking the knight, pushing the pawn, still not caring about this knight if it's taken. I'm prying apart the defenses. This is like if AlphaZero, Tall, and Fischer all had a baby, this is what this game would be. You look at the computer, obviously computer's going to say of some inaccuracies with h6. I think h6 is not an accuracy. The sole purpose being that I like my king mobile. Remember, you could make inaccuracies. Obviously, if your opponent can exploit them, that's an issue. But if they're minuscule inaccuracies, meaning you're winning and it gives your opponent a slight way to come back, as long as you're comfortable with the position, you've thought it out, it's fine. Remember, rules in chess can be broken if you can make them work. That's the main takeaway of this game. My coach made one too many mistakes and inaccuracies. Obviously, washed player, meaning not the best, not the worst, but once a great player. And this is me just dismantling a close Sicilian because I wanted to. People like to play the close Sicilian against me because everybody I know, it's not a secret. I like mobility. I like open positions. I don't like these cagey settings. I can play these cagey setups. I choose not to because they're boring. This is the most fun I've had with a close position. I would go out on a limb and say ever. So yeah, this is the greatest game. of my easily the past 5 years. I have some other fun games, but just want to make a video about this because it is Toll and Fisher and Alpha Zero all mushed into one game. Let me know what other videos you want to see in the comments, and like, subscribe.